Morning, everyone. This is section 3, lesson 2, Bible reading. We're reading Exodus today, Exodus 1 through 4, and Psalm 14. Exodus 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob. Each came with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the descendants of Jacob were 70 people. Joseph was already in Egypt. Then Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. But the Israelites were prolific and increased greatly. They multiplied and became extremely strong, so that the land was filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph, nor the history of his accomplishments. He said to his people, "Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. They greatly outnumber us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, so that they will not multiply, and in the event of war join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land." So they set taskmasters over them to oppress them with hard labor. And the sons of Israel built Pithom and Ramses as storage cities for Pharaoh. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more they multiplied and expanded, so that the Egyptians dreaded and were exasperated by the Israelites. And the Egyptians made the Israelites serve rigorously, forcing them into severe slavery. They made their lives bitter with hard labor in mortar, brick, and all kinds of field work. All their labor was harsh and severe. Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah, beauty, and the other was named Puah, splendor, "When you act as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on their birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him, and if it's a daughter, she shall live." But the midwives feared God with profound reverence and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded, but they let the boy babies live. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing and allowed the boy babies to live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth quickly, and their babies are born before the midwife can get to them." So God was good to the midwives, and the people of Israel multiplied and became very strong. And because the midwives feared God with profound reverence, he established families and households for them. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born to the Hebrews must be thrown into the Nile, but every daughter you shall keep alive." Exodus 2. Now a man of the house of Levi, the priestly tribe, went and took as his wife a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and gave birth to a son, and when she saw that he was especially beautiful and healthy, she hid him for 3 months to protect him from the Egyptians. When she could no longer hide him, she got him a basket chest made of papyrus reeds and covered it with tar and pitch, making it waterproof. Then she put the child in it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. And his sister Miriam stood some distance away to find out what would happen to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the Nile, and she, together with her maidens, walked along the river's bank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to get it, and she brought it to her. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby was crying. And she took pity on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a wet nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go ahead." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses, and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." One day, after Moses had grown into adulthood, it happened that when he went to his countrymen and looked with compassion at their hard labors, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his countrymen, he turned to look around, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. He went out the next day and saw 2 Hebrew men fighting with each other. And he said to the aggressor, "Why are you striking your friend?" But the man said, "Who made you a prince and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and said, "Certainly this incident is known." When Pharaoh heard about this matter, he tried to kill Moses. Then Moses fled from Pharaoh's presence and took refuge in the land of Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water from the well, where Moses was resting, and filled their troughs to water their father's flock. Then shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to Reuel, Jethro, their father, he said, "How is it that you have come back so soon today?" They said, "An Egyptian saved us from the shepherds. He even drew water from the well for us and watered the flock." Then he said to his daughters, "Where is he? Why have you left the man behind? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses was willing to remain with the man, and he gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. She gave birth to a son, and he named him Gershom, stranger, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." Now it happened after a long time, about 40 years, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel, Jacob, groaned and sighed because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of their bondage ascended to God. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel. God saw the sons of Israel, and God took notice of them, and was concerned about them, knowing all, understanding all, remembering all. Now Moses was keeping the flock of Jethro, Reuel, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, Sinai, the mountain of God. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing flame of fire from the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush was on fire, yet it was not consumed. So Moses said, "I must turn away from the flock and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned up." When the Lord saw that he turned away from the flock to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." Then God said, "Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet out of respect, because the place on which you are standing is holy ground." Then he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Then Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, "I have in fact seen the affliction, suffering, desolation of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, oppressors, for I know their pain and suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from that land to a land that is good and spacious, to a land flowing with milk and honey, a land of plenty, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Now behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen how the Egyptians oppressed them. Therefore come now, and I will send you to Pharaoh, and then bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" And God said, "Certainly I will be with you, and this shall be the sign to you, that is, I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve and worship God at this mountain." Then Moses said to God, "Behold, when I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers' ancestors has sent me to you,' and they say to me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "You shall say this to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" Then God also said to Moses, "This is what you shall say to the Israelites: 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, Israel, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial name to all generations. Go, gather the elders, tribal leaders of Israel together, and say to them, "The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I am indeed concerned about you and what has been done to you in Egypt. So I said, I will bring you up out of the suffering and oppression of Egypt to the land of the Canaanite, Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. The elders of the tribes will listen and pay attention to what you say. And you, with the elders of Israel, shall go to the king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So now, please, we ask and plead with you, let us go on a 3 days' journey into the wilderness, so that we may sacrifice to you, the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless he is forced by a strong hand. So I will reach out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders, which I shall do in the midst of it, and after that he will let you go. And I will grant this people favor and respect in the sight of the Egyptians. Therefore it shall be that when you go, you will not go empty-handed. And every woman shall insistently ask her neighbor and any woman who lives in her house for articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing, and you shall put them on your sons and daughters. In this way you are to plunder the Egyptians, leaving bondage with great possessions that are rightfully yours. Exodus 4. Then Moses answered the Lord and said, "What if they will not believe me or take me seriously with what I say? For they may say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.'" And the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" And he said, "A staff." Then he said, "Throw it on the ground." So Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a living serpent, like a royal symbol of the crown of Pharaoh. And Moses ran from it. But the Lord said to Moses, "Reach out your hand and grasp it by the tail." So he reached out the hand and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. "You shall do this," said the Lord, "so that the elders may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, most certainly appeared to you." The Lord also said to him, "Put your hand into your robe where it covers your chest." So he put his hand into his robe, and when he took it out, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. Then God said, "Put your hand into your robe again." So he put his hand back into his robe, and when he took it out, it was restored and was like the rest of his body. If they will not believe you or pay attention to the evidence of the first sign, they may believe the evidence of the second sign. But if they will not believe these two signs or pay attention to what you say, you are to take some water from the Nile and pour it on dry ground, and the water which you take from the river will turn into blood on the dry ground. Then Moses said to the Lord, "Please, Lord, I am not a man of words, eloquent, fluent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and tongue." The Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute or the deaf or the seeing or the blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now then go, and I, even I, will be with you, your mouth, and will teach you what you shall say." But he said, "Please, my Lord, send the message or rescue to Israel by someone else, whomever else you will choose." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled and burned against Moses. He said, "Is there not your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he speaks fluently. Also, he is coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be overjoyed. You must speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I, even I, will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you are to do. Moreover, he shall speak for you to the people. He will act as a mouthpiece for you, and you will be as God to him, telling him what I say to you. You shall take in your hand this staff with you, which with you shall perform the signs, the miracles which prove I sent you." Then Moses went away and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, "Please let me go back so that I may return to my relatives in Egypt and see if they are still alive." And Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." Then the Lord said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all the men who are seeking your life for killing the Egyptian are dead." So Moses took his wife Zipporah and his sons Gershom and Eleazar and seated them on donkeys and returned to the land of Egypt. Moses also took the staff of God in his hand. The Lord said to Moses, "When you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders, miracles which I have put in your hand. But I will harden his heart and make him stubborn, so that he will not let the people go. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, 'Thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go, so that he may serve me. And if you refuse to let him go, behold, I will kill your son, your firstborn.'" Now it happened at a lodging place that the Lord met Moses and sought to kill him, making him deadly ill, because he had not circumcised one of his sons. Then Zipporah took a flint knife and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at Moses' feet and said, "Indeed, you are a husband of blood to me." So he let Moses alone recover. At that time Zipporah said, "You are a husband of blood," because of the circumcision. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went and met him at the mountain of God, Sinai, and kissed him. Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord which he had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went into Egypt and assembled all the elders of the Israelites. And Aaron said all the words of the Lord, which the Lord had spoken to Moses. Then Moses performed the signs given to him by the people before the people. So the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord was concerned about the Israelites and that he had looked with compassion on their suffering, then they bowed their heads and worshipped the Lord. Psalm 14. The spiritually ignorant fool has said in his heart, "There is no God." They are corrupt. They have committed repulsive and unspeakable deeds. There is no one who does good. The Lord has looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand to act wisely, who truly seek after God, longing for his wisdom and guidance. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. Have all the workers of wickedness and injustice no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread, and do not call upon the Lord? There they tremble with great fear, for God is with the consistently righteous generation. The evildoers shamefully plan against the poor. but the Lord is his safe refuge. Oh, that the salvation of Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord restores his captive people, then Jacob will rejoice, Israel will be glad.